Breakups are often the symptom of problems in a relationship. My workbook series, The Knowledge, is focused on helping you change your life in 4 key areas: retaining the information that I teach, personal growth, improving your relationships, and of course, re-attracting your ex. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And today we're going to be talking about what your ex is thinking while you're in no contact.
That's a big question for everyone.
This is something that everybody thinks about.
Yes.
And everybody wonders. And
Right.
We've talked about it in some other videos, but because it comes up so often, when we think about it and we discuss ideas, it's good to revisit it and talk about it again.
Right.
Because we know how scary this decision is to go no contact, to no longer reach out. And of course, the way I teach no contact simply means not to reach out to somebody. I don't ever want you to ignore somebody when they reach out to you. I know there's a lot of confusion around that, especially when you guys are new to my channel, right?
Yes.
So, when I say no contact, what I mean is don't reach out when somebody ends the relationship, okay? So, obviously I say this all the time. Every situation is different and every breakup is different. And one of the things that I want you to realize is that we all leave relationships for different reasons. Okay?
Yes.
And this is an analogy that I thought of that I thought would be helpful for you guys, okay? Think about the many jobs you've had in your life. Let's say you've worked 5 or 6 different jobs, okay? You left each of those jobs for a different reason, okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe in one job you felt one particular way, so you left it. Another job you left for a different reason. Maybe you didn't feel like they cared about you at the job, or you weren't validated what you did. Maybe you weren't compensated well. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is that when you leave a job, you leave for different reasons. And the same thing goes for a breakup. Mm-hmm. So why is this important? Well, it means that there's no one size fits all answer that to why somebody left the relationship. This is obviously going to go out to thousands of people with thousands of different reasons for their relationship ending. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to find some insight with what we have to say.
Right.
Okay? In fact, knowing that there are different reasons for the breakup can help you, because maybe you heard somebody else say one thing for the reason of the relationship ending, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't feel like my situation. Because it might not be.
Right.
Okay? So, why you left the job, you might have had different goals. But that doesn't mean you didn't truly value that job or really appreciate it, right? You wanted to try a new career path. Could have been one reason, right? Mm-hmm. So, one of the things that I really think is important for you to know is when you have stopped reaching out to your ex and you're focusing on things, you really want to focus on personal growth. That is by far the most important thing to do. Growth. Because that is the number one thing you can control. You might not be able to control if and when you have another chance with your ex, but focusing on yourself and making you the priority is always going to help you, and it's always going to pay off. Okay? So, but I want you to think about this, because this is, I think, a great way to look at a breakup. If you left a job for a particular reason, and you were like, you know what? I'm done with that job. I've outgrown it. It wasn't for me anymore. Well, what if you found out 30 days later, 60 days later, whenever it was, that the person that was now in that job got a promotion and a big raise?
I would not be one bit happy.
No. Now you're like, well, is there anything I can do to get this job back? And that is exactly what happens when you focus on yourself and make personal growth the priority. Because now they're thinking, wow, promotion and a raise, this is not the job I just left. Now I'm thinking maybe this was the job I still want to be at.
Right.
Right? So now they're suddenly looking at things a lot different, and that's what happens when you truly do the work. Right?
When you work on yourself. Absolutely.
Now, I know that there is a lot of bad information about what goes on during no contact and why people break up. And quite honestly, I've heard some really bizarre reasons recently that when people, like for breakups, that why people left the relationship. I've heard that people have left relationships because they thought you were a burden.
I've never heard that one.
I have never talked to one person that said I left a relationship because they were a burden.
I've heard needy, but I've never heard a burden.
And apparently, that is something that's being said, and it just doesn't add up for me.
No, me either.
A burden is almost like something that you would think of like a situation, not a person that you're relating with. It's just a very bizarre way to say you. So if you've heard a burden, that just makes no sense to me. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Doesn't make any sense to me either. I've heard that so-and-so was needy. I've never even heard high maintenance. Needy I've heard, but not for very long. And in the needy ones I've heard, they usually got back together, believe it or not. So no, I don't know what anybody's thinking when they say a burden.
Yeah. Of course, sometimes they are feeling like it wasn't working out. This just wasn't working out. That's a lot more reasonable and in line with what somebody's thinking.
Yeah.
They've been unhappy.
Right.
They're frustrated with you. That's a big one.
That's what we hear, yeah.
But as far as being a burden, that to me just makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
So you're wondering throughout the breakup and day in and day out when you haven't heard from this person, which is hard to do, I admit.
Did they forget about me?
Are they moving on?
Those are the first questions that you hear.
Absolutely, we get that a lot.
Yeah.
And are they really regretting their decision, or are they regretting it yet? Because sometimes it takes time before somebody regrets their decision, right?
Yes, because we just said not long ago that it takes a while to begin to get over your sense of being relieved because you did this thing and to begin to feel the grief, right?
That's right.
And that takes time. And people say to us, when does no contact start working? However long that takes till they begin to realize they miss you in their life.
That's right. And so they're going to be thinking different things at different times. And that's really important to understand. The day of the breakup, they're going to feel very different 2 months later, or 4 months later.
Absolutely.
So where they are in the breakup has a lot to do with what they're thinking and feeling. And any kind of contact they may have had with you, I don't know if they've reached out to you. Obviously, I don't want you to reach out to them unless you guys are in some kind of communication that seems to be working. Right? But, initially at least, they're probably feeling angry at you.
Yes, of course.
Because they've probably felt like you were withholding something from them. Maybe it was love or affection or attention. And that sometimes they even believe like that you just didn't want to give them what they wanted. And sometimes they're right. Because if somebody's with you for 5 years and like, I have begged you for 5 years to marry me, to have kids with me, to start a family with me, and you didn't. How can you say that's not true? Right? You didn't give them what they wanted.
Right.
And I see situations like that a lot.
So do I. Yep.
Where the person didn't give the other one what they wanted all these years, and now you're like, I'm going to give it to you. And they're like, whoa, well, now I don't want it.
Yeah, now I don't want it. It's too late.
Now they're angry.
Too much, too little, too late. Yes.
Maybe they felt that you were judgmental in the relationship and that you were always telling them what they should like or not like or do with their career.
Or what they should do. I had one of those not long ago.
Yeah. Who they should spend their time with. There are a lot of different reasons. Sometimes a relationship gets monotonous and people get just tired of, day in and day out where it's not fun and you guys aren't really connecting anymore.
Right. Yeah, if you're just going to work and coming home and watching TV.
Absolutely.
That doesn't fly for a real long time.
There's a good chance that they're evaluating the situation and they're kind of looking at the pros and the cons of the things that you did or didn't do. And maybe they just felt like you weren't really interested in them anymore.
Yep.
That you were just focused on yourself and only doing what you wanted to do. You didn't care about where they wanted to go or places they wanted to visit.
Or you promised things you didn't deliver, like you'd go to those places. Yeah.
Sometimes a relationship between two people can get stale where you're not really caring about what's going on with them anymore, and you're not like having fun times, you're not engaging with them, you're not laughing together, you're just in one room, they're in another, and of course you need your own space, but you got to have fun together.
Yes.
Relationships are supposed to be fun.
And remember that the culture does not tell us that we need to work at this. The culture tells us we'll magically find our soulmate, and then bells will go off and the Alleluia chorus will play in the background and we'll all live happily ever after. But there's much more to it. And you don't see people checking in with each other. I remember I once knew a couple who would check in with each other every couple of months. Are things going okay? Are you okay? Is there anything you need from me you're not getting? What a wonderful thing to do, right?
Yeah. And so these are the things that you got to really focus on, how you're going to correct it, because if they sit back and they think about, they were always anxious and stressed, and they were angry at me and trying to control me all the time, that's not going to make them excited to come back to you if you don't correct that. No. You got to figure out what the problem is in order to correct it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's one of the ways to spend your time.
Because they're going to sit back and evaluate, and they're going to think about their decision. I know you feel like they're not, but they are.
And we've said it over and over again. That, you're sure that you're out of their mind entirely. They have a new love. They've just shut the door on you. But at some point, they're going to revisit, did they make the right decision?
That's right. And what they're going to do is they're going to start to think about things like, at first they're going to believe you won't change. They're frustrated. They're like, they've been this way for so long. They're set in their ways. I've asked them to change. They're not going to change. And so that's why we're always encouraging you to work on yourself, because you can change.
Anybody can change anytime they choose to. You're never too old. Or never too set in your ways, as long as you want to.
Yeah, exactly. But they're going to think they can't, meaning you can't change. Things aren't going to change, and their feelings aren't going to change about you. I'm going to say that again. You can't change, the relationship's not going to change, and their feelings aren't going to change about you. Well, all of those things can change, okay? But as soon as a breakup happens, it's probably not going to change right away. They're not going to think all of a sudden that you can change,
right,
even though you're pleading with them and trying to tell them that you are.
Right. But you can't change quickly. That does not happen. I talked with a woman today who was being pressed by her boyfriend to change quickly. And when you heard what she was dealing with, that was really a joke. No human being could do it. You could do it over time, and you could make some little changes in the beginning. But you can't change and be done with it in a short period,
Sure. Obviously, I say this all the time, that a breakup is a symptom of problems in a relationship.
Right.
Okay? And not all of that is on you. You both created that relationship together. But they got to the point where they were so frustrated or unhappy that they had to make a decision about it.
Right.
Okay? And maybe they put all that blame on you, and that's not fair, that you didn't meet all their needs, or that you didn't meet their expectations, and they're hurt by certain things that you have done or didn't do. And honestly, Margaret, sometimes it has nothing to do with what you did or didn't do.
No, it doesn't. It can be a family pulling on people. It can be other things.
Well, and especially if you've been hurt by your parents.
Yep.
Right?
Yes. And you're still going along with that hurt. Sure.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're traumatized by a parent in a certain way, then you're going to get blamed for how the parents hurt them.
You often do. Yes, you often can.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
So that comes up a lot, and they've got to figure out that your behavior wasn't as bad as it felt, and that really, that some of that hurt was from another place.
Yes, I had a very clear instance of that a few weeks ago, where this woman had been terribly traumatized by 2 prior relationships, and then kind of lost it in the third, and you could see exactly how it happened. Yeah. So it may not be your fault at all.
No, absolutely. And hopefully your ex gets to a point where they start to realize that they are part of the issues, that their behavior was part of the reason this relationship didn't last, and they're not blaming you for everything, because you really need somebody to act like an adult.
Right.
And they just can't blame all the problems on you, because that's simply not fair.
Right. If we're grown-ups, we're involved.
Absolutely. So, as you can see, there are many different areas that your ex are going to go through.
There are many different stages.
Different thoughts and feelings that your ex is going to have when they're not hearing from you and during this time apart from you. And probably they're going to be surprised that they are missing you.
Yes.
And they're not expecting to regret their decision. But, you know, like I say, oftentimes the way we think something is going to go is very different than the way it actually goes.
Yep.
So just know that your ex is thinking a lot of different things during no contact, and a lot of it is going to be about you.
Yes, it is.
And what happened in your relationship.
Right.
So hopefully this makes you feel a little bit better knowing that they are thinking about you.
But we see the anxiety around the no contact day in and day out. We understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you want to get our help personally, just go to my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype coaching. Margaret is also available for Skype coaching.
Please feel free to sign up with me as well.
Just click on Margaret on the top of the website. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you're notified when the newest videos come out. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And we will talk with you soon. I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different, and every breakup is different. Work with me, and you'll get professional help on your situation. Just click on the link in the description below, or go to my website, askcraig.net.